Okay.
Thank you, Prakash ji. Thank you, Sunil ji, for such a wonderful session. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita session. Radhe Radhe. Nitin ji, do we? Oh yeah, Nitin ji is here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe. Over to you.
Thank you, Pallavi. Radhe Radhe. And thank you, Prakash Sunil Bhai, for a wonderful session, like always. A very warm welcome to all of you to today's edition of Daily Wisdom. Wednesday classes are different because we have 4 segments, right? We have our regular 3 segments, and then we have a spiritual cash up segment as well, where we look at the key concepts from Maharajji's lectures and some of his very profound teachings that we get access to. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen and we'll get underway with today's session. A very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning, good evening, based on where you're joining us from. So let me share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let me just, what's going on? Just give me a sec. All right, now it's good. Okay, we'll get started with our opening prayers like we always do. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurudevo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. So Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening to all of you. A very warm welcome. So let's get started with our Soul Soup segment like we always do. So we have been talking about problems, right? How do we look at problems? Can we really avoid problems in life? Answer is a overwhelming no. Okay. If anybody has avoided all the problems in life, then we'd love to hear from you. But the fact is that this is a part and parcel of life. And the very fact that we have job is because we have problems to solve. If we didn't have problems to solve, why would we even get paid? So we cannot avoid problems in life, and life is actually throws problems from time to time. And if you look at it, these are actually great opportunities for us to propel it towards our inner growth. So inner growth is a priority, then no problem is actually, every problem will present its own set of opportunities for our inner growth. So as part of problems today, I've picked a very relevant thing that most of the people they can relate to, which is how do we handle critics. Critics are also part of the problem, right, that we have in life. And there's an interesting word, English word, allodoxophobia. I think we spoke about it. In Hindi they call it sabse bada rog kya kahenge char log, right? So people criticize. Criticism is a part of life. Okay, now how do we handle criticism is what we are going to spend a little bit of time on. So let's understand some facts first. So what happens is 25 of the percent of the people that you will meet will not like you. Take it for granted. This is a statistic, okay? Established statistic. Then 25% of the people will not like you, but then they can be persuaded to. Okay? You can make them like you, although they don't like you. Then 25% of people will like you. However, they can be persuaded not to, right? You get influenced, or this person is like that, this person is like that, and you feel they're bad. And then somebody says, no, no, that person is a gem of a person, heart of gold, this, that. Okay, all that stuff can happen both ways. And then another 25% people will like you. And they will stand by you no matter what others say. That can happen as well. So this is the real statistics. Okay, so if you go by this, it should alleviate the need or free us from anxiety of that validation that we look from situations and people around, right? No matter what you do, there will be set of critics always. Okay, that's it. You will never be able to please everybody or keep happy everyone all the times. Maybe you can if you are a, what do you call that, a candy man or that ice cream guy who comes for a while, rings the bell, distributes those candies and goes away, and kids are usually happy, right? But typically in life, you cannot keep everybody happy all the time. That is a fact of life. And everybody has a right to say what they want as long as it does not break the rules. But we also have a right not to feel bad about it. Everybody has a right to their opinion, and we have a right to disregard it. I think one of the questions came up, what if somebody is criticizing you on the face? And we have a option or a choice to disregard it. And what people say and think about us does not define who we are. They will have an opinion. Everybody has an opinion, and there's a reason for that opinion. That's fine. And their views are not something that decides our self-worth. And it is better to deflect it off like water rolls off a lotus leaf. Okay, that is the best strategy around it. There was a story of um, Shiv, Parvati, and Nandi coming down on earth, right? I've spoken about that story. So when they were walking around with Nandi, they said how dumb, how foolish both of them are. You know, they have somebody to take a ride on, and they all are walking like that. And then both of them sat on Nandi, and then the animal activist came along. He said, "How cruel of them! Both of them happily sitting on a bull. That is not very kind of them." So then. Shivji continued to ride, and Parvati got down and said, "What kind of a lady is she? Husband is that? Feminist groups, they cornered them. He's happily riding while the lady is walking. He put the lady on the Nandi and he started walking himself. He said, "What kind of a person lady is she? We're happily riding and husband is walking side the." Then they finally picked Nandi up on their head and started walking. And people said, "What kind of foolish people are they? They have something to ride on and they're carrying it on their head." So the point is, no matter what you do, you cannot please people. People will always have a problem, right? There was a contest which happened. There was a dozen frogs which entered into a context competition to reach a top of a nearby tower. And the way this competition panned out, there was a big crowd that gathered. Okay, it's the frogs are going to climb a tower, and they wanted to see the race and cheer the contestants. The race began, and practically nobody believed that anybody could actually reach at the top of the tower. So they kept screaming comments like impossible, they don't stand a chance, they are destined to fail. And the frogs, they kept on collapsing one after another. But some continued to climb, and the crowd continued to yell, "They will never make it. The tower is too high. The slope is too steep." More frogs exhausted and gave up. However, all the frogs gave up. There was one frog who would just not give up. And it continued the march, climbing higher and higher. And then finally, with a big leap, he scaled the top of the tower. And then the frogs were curious. Everybody fell down, and this was one frog who could make it right at the top. And he was undeterred by, the opinions of the people around. But then when they analyzed on further inquiry and probing, they figured out that frog was deaf. It could not even hear what they were saying. So even though the crowd were passing negative comments, it was immune to it because it thought they are cheering me and actually praising me. It kept on marching. So the point here is that people tell you when you cannot achieve your goals, you need to become deaf to them like that frog. And if you have a dream in your heart and you are positive and optimistic about it, and everybody around is negative and pessimistic, you need to tell in yourself, "I'm going to put in my best efforts, and by relying on God's grace, I'll make it." So this is the best way to do that. You can't make all the people happy, and we need to have a game plan around that. And if we let critics have their way, then every second day you would need a validation, and it can disturb your peace of mind as well. So this is the way to handle critics in your life. And if you go by the statistics, you will never be able to please everybody around. There will be always somebody who's criticizing you for some reason. Yes, Sandhya?
Quick comment from Pratyusha ji.
Mhm.
Thank God Nandi can talk, and he said to them, "I like to serve them."
Yeah, that's true. So, but yeah, I think you got the gist of the story, right? What it means. Yes, Girishji, you wanted to add something?
Radhe, Grace ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. This is a very powerful message. I know you have just mentioned in this few lines over here, but if you look at it, you encounter this situation almost every day, and it's a very big distraction if you get uh, baffled by all of these people, especially the negative side of it, who wants to drag you and not uh, let you move along your um, uh, pathway towards your goal. So we always, I mean, I think one of the good example you mentioned is about the deaf frog. If he, although by nature he was deaf, but we can also try to ignore all of these negative comments. If it is something for us to improve upon, yes, definitely, but not, at least not get distracted though.
True.
We can continue to move on to our journey and take that as a compliment. It could be another milestone, just like, when we do a
Yes,
retrospective, so something like that.
very true. And also, I think if we critique ourselves, it's a good attitude to have because that can propel our inner growth as well, right? Typically, what happens is we are lenient with ourselves and strict with others. It should be the other way around. We should be strict with ourselves and lenient with others. Cut them a bit of a slack, give them a benefit of doubt. And if we can actually take criticism constructively, that's the fastest way to purify yourself, right? Kabir ji had said, right? Nindak neere rakhiye, angan kutti chhubaye, bin sabun pani bina. I think what he said was, without soap and water, it can cleanse you. You get a critic around you, and let him criticize you, and simply keep on tolerating. If that happens, you will purify yourself very quickly. And there's an English saying also, a bad day for ego is a good day for the soul. So you can actually channelize as well. But the point is, if it distracts you, it's better to ignore it, continue, stay focused, or simply tolerate it, saying, okay, what he's saying, he may not be 100% right, but there's an iota of truth in it. If you look at it, we are all fools. Until we become God realized, we are fools, right? Because we are in ignorance. Now, if somebody says fool, it's like I'm at least better than you. But our argument is like, it's not that I'm truly a learned person, but at least I'm better than you. And that fires us up, right? So we need to have devise a game plan around it so that this is an opportunity for our spiritual growth as opposed to getting sidetracked and losing our peace of mind around it. Let's continue to the Bhagavad Gita topic, and then we have a lot of stuff lined up today, so we will just hold on any more questions or comments around it and get to the topic of our discussion today. I'm going to recite the shloka. We'll probably take two hands today because we have a cash up segment coming up as well. So I want to give that fair amount of time. So maybe two hands and then we'll get going. Sannyasastु mahabaho dukkam aptum yogatah yoga yukto munir brahma nachirena digachati. Let's take two hands and then we move on.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Aparna ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Aparna ji.
राधे राधे संन्यासस्तु महाबाहो दुःखमाप्तुम् अयोगतः योगयुक्तो मुनिर्ब्रह्मा न चिरेणाधिगच्छति.
Thank you.
so
One more
much.
hand, one more face we can take.
Yeah, Shyam ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Sannyasastho mahabaho dukkhamaptom yogataha yoga yukto munir brahma nachirena digachati. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Shyamji. So Riya ji, Pragi ji will take you tomorrow. So we have to rush a little bit today. So this shloka says, perfect renunciation, karam sannyas is difficult to attain without performing work in devotion. So karam yoga is a stepping stone to karam sannyas. Having said that, karam sannyas is not a mandatory stage, right? We have spoken about this topic. And then Lord Krishna goes on to say that mighty armed Arjun, but the sage who's adept in karam yoga quickly attains the supreme. Once we become adept in Karam Yogs, we quickly attain the Supreme. We'll see that how it happens a little bit more today. So, quick recap. We spoke about our Antakaran, which is we have made a Dharamshala for so many things. So, between birth and death, it's like that motel. Although we are residing in a motel, this life is like a motel. If you think about it, it's a very temporary pit stop that we are here for, and we start making a big deal out of that temporary pit stop that we have in this, right? And we make our heart a dharamshala, means welcome so many things. We keep on stacking up our attachments one after another, and that becomes a story of our life, between B and D, birth and death, lifetime after lifetime, right? And then we said the right way to look at it is, what God says is, then this dharamshala needs to be replaced with the right things, and he's given us variety around it. Nam Roop Gund Leela Dham Parikar. Anything that you focus on, look at, actually purifies our antakaran, or our ethereal heart, right? That is what we have spoken about. We spoke about and discussed as well yesterday. Now let's move on from here and talk about the Arjun's all. So when we talk about Karam Yoga here, right? So we spoke about this concept that what needs to be altered actually, right? You are going to perform action. It's not like you need to change what you are going to do. It's not drastic that you need to go to a forest or go to a cave or a mountain to do something drastic. That's not what spirituality is, as one of the connotations related to spirituality as well. So let's look at Arjun, what's going on here in Bhagavad Gita. Now, what Arjun was telling Lord Krishna was that I would rather not fight this war. If the ultimate goal of life is to pursue spirituality, to attain God, then I would go to a forest and practice spirituality. This is what people think, right? Who are in real life as well. If ultimate goal is this, let me shun all my responsibilities. Why to take care of family, or get bogged down by the duties that I currently have, and simply focus my entire energy, time, emotions on spirituality alone. That's exactly what Arjun told Lord Krishna, that I might as well take a sannyas. So what Lord Krishna tells him, that you are a warrior, and if you artificially renounce your duty and retire to then your nature would propel you to work in a, basically you will be compelled to work in accordance with your nature. What it means is that you will go there, gather a few tribesmen, and declare yourself as a king and start fighting wars there as well, because that is your natural inclination of that being a kshatriya. We also know we also have certain propensities. No matter where we go, those propensities come out, those tendencies or proclivities, or our inclinations, so to say. So this is how it works. So instead, you do what? You act in accordance with your nature, but purify the intention behind it. So in this case, he's saying you came to the battlefront with the presumption of saving a kingdom. First you came, okay, I'm going to save my kingdom. I'm going to stake the claim for something that truly belongs to me. Now he says you just simply dedicate your service unselfishly to God, and then you will start purifying the mind. This is the spirit of Karam Yoga. So what happens? Previously, his focus was on the results. I need to win the kingdom through this battle. Now it's on the effort. Lord said, you just perform your duty as a matter of service to God. So that aspect is taken care of. Then his goal was winning the kingdom. Now his goal was fighting a righteous war, that Lord is saying. Then he was beset by doubt, fear, and anxiety. After that, he said, I'm competence and confidence throughout, right? So this is the transformation that happened in him after reading the Bhagavad Gita. And that is because his doubts were dispelled, because he could think clearly, because his mind, he had the ability to not only ingest that message in those 3 hours, whatever that duration was, but be able to practically apply it as well, right? Because his mind was clear. He said, Nashto moha. He said, my moha, that entire illusion is dispelled now. He could purify it within the duration of 3 hours. For us, it might take 100 lives, or whatever the case may be. Yes, Sandhya, you have a question?
Regarding this nature thing, so the other aspect is, if we get the taste of a higher bliss, then we can actually switch from lower nature to higher nature, right? And get over our natural inclinations.
Yes, it can happen. If you, nature, basically, if you think about it, the same thing Lord Krishna is talking about, right? You are driven by your gunas. So we are in autopilot mode, but you can take manual control over it as well. Right? So where you can actually conquer your lower nature and overlay your higher nature on top of it as well, right? So it's not like you're subservient to your nature. So that we definitely have a free will to change, even subscribe to a higher nature in a particular instance, right? But what Lord Krishna in this particular case is instructing Arjuna is you are a Kshatriya. Okay. So you focus on that thing, but perform this whole act in the spirit of sacrifice and for the pleasure of God, as opposed to thinking that you're fighting this for yourself. But yes, to your point, we can actually subscribe to a higher nature as well if you are when we are ready for it. And that is what Lord Krishna is saying, that if you have to relinquish your regular duties like Arjun is doing, first you have to have eligibility. You should have purified your mind, and then only you are eligible for it. Yes, Kirishji.
Please go ahead, Girishji. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe
Radhe.
Radhe. One of the comments on what Sandhya ji said is, based on my understanding, is like Juna de do, Atala de do, and give me new. So that is something like all the old things which are outdated, maybe in my treasury box, which are not working. We have the ability to surrender it to the God, and if he pleases, he is willing to give us a fresh new new of those items, meaning like new ideas, new perception, of everything new from the scratch, so we can start a new beginning.
Yeah, so God does have an ability to make anything happen for sure. In fact, that's what he does. It's like a washerman. Washerman, you give some dirty clothes to a washerman and then he will clean it, give it back to you, right? God does the same. He purifies our antakaran and gives it back to you, so to relish the bliss of him only. So that's essentially what God does when we start sacrificing or performing austerities or doing things for in the spirit of the play, for the pleasure of God. So let's move on. This is a training ground. As we see Karam Yoga, we spoke about Karam Yoga and Karam Sannyas, right? So the purification of mind is the step, basically the process that needs to happen. And this is the prerequisite to Karam Sannyas. However, so if you look at it, the world is a training ground for purifying the mind by performing Karam Yoga. That's what Lord Krishna is saying. Performing duties in the world helps to purify mind, which is required for Karam Sannyas. Having said that, before you think too far ahead, that's not mandatory. Okay, this step is not mandatory. So through Karam Yoga itself, you can attain God. And just like sound sleep is possible only for those who have worked hard, deep meditation comes to those who have purified their minds through Karam Yoga. So even the meditation aspect of it, which is mindful sleep, right? Sleep is your sleeping meditation, and meditation is your mindful sleep, something like that. So your meditation will start going deeper once your mind starts getting purer. Okay, there is a direct correlation between these two as well. Correlation, and conversely also, if you force your mind to go into deeper meditation, it will cleanse it as well, because now you are exerting itself, right? And you're thinking about God, so it will have that purification effect as well. So this is how it works, and world is a training ground for us to purify our mind, senses, and intellect. That is why God is recommending Karma Yoga for us as well. Now, how does it work? Let's look at it. This is a fruit. You see that? This is an apple. So it is basically clinging to the tree, attached to the tree, and tree is nourishing it and bearing it. But only when this fruit becomes ripe, you know how it will look when it becomes ripe, it will be like this. So previously it's like, now it's like this. But then there's another thing that happens. Now, when your experience has become into wisdom, when the fruit becomes ripe, then it automatically, what happens? Detaches, falls off. So that detachment that we are talking about is a natural consequence of a purified senses and mind. It will be like fish out of water at that point. You will simply take to it. You will not even question that you will not even say that I need to turn away from the world because there's misery in this world. It will be a very swabhavik, natural, sahaj. Sahaj means you'll ease into that. It's like a fish taking to water. That question will also be taken care of. That is called call of God. It can happen, but only when you have a purified mind and senses, intellect. So Karam Yoga, when you reach a tipping point, then it will automatically, that thing will come in. So until then, we have to continue in this training ground and continue to work on ourselves. This is how the process has to work. Now let's understand what happens. This is who we are. You see that? I hope you see the spark. I forgot the one which was there. I could not find that, so I put that. Hope you're seeing the spark inside the body. This is who we are, right? Now what happens is, now you do see Paramatma is there as well, a little bit of it. He's residing within us. So God is seated within us. Now he's seated within us, but we don't have any perception of God, right? We don't have any perception. Why? Because he's a bit distant from us. And there's a reason why he's distant from us. You know why he's distant from us? Because there are veil in between. There are curtain in between. This is the first curtain, and this is the second curtain. The first curtain is that of Maya. Okay. And the second curtain is that of Yoga Maya. These two curtains we need to, remove before we can see and perceive God. Now within Maya, there are two aspects. There's a Vidya Maya and there is an Avidya Maya. So this curtain is composed of these two components. And then what happens? Now something interesting would happen. Okay, what is that? Now let's introduce this thing. Okay. This is nothing but Karam Yoga that we are talking about. Now, when you do Karam Yoga, something interesting would happen. What would happen? It will purify your senses and mind. When you do Karam Yoga, what are you doing in Karam Yoga? You are thinking that I am doing it for the pleasure of God. You are doing it with the sense of yoga and not bhog, not for self-enjoyment, but for the pleasure of God. So when you do that, it will start purifying your senses. And that, that joy, bliss quotient will start increasing and it will cleanse your senses as well. See, your happiness, your joy, your inner peace, all of that is directly correlated to the purity of your mind. So if you don't feel joyous from within, there's about time to start working on your mind, right? Start bringing God into the mix. Your joy quotient will start increasing. And as you continue to perfect Karam Yoga, it will keep on purifying your senses further and further and further, right? And when it happens, then what happens in the next stage? Next stage, what happens is you will perfect your surrender one day. Okay. And when you will perfect your surrender, something else will also happen. You will get
Yes.
grace. And when you get grace, what will happen? These curtains will go and you can perceive God. Okay. This is how the process will work. Now, when you surrender, you get grace. When you love God, what do you get? You not only get grace, but God becomes indebted to you as well. Okay, so that is the beauty of falling in love with God. Surrender will also happen, grace will also happen. In fact, he'll become indebted to you. Think, God has given you a blank check. He's become indebted to you. Now, what is grace? I'm not going to spend time on that. Okay, this is a topic for our Cash Up segment. I would let Cash talk about that. But this is how the process will unfold. So, the perception of God, that those veils that are in between the Maya and Yoga Maya, Vidya Maya, Vidya Maya. By the way, Vidya Maya is like Vidya Maya is the Maya through which this world is created. Vidya Maya is basically the one which keeps us in ignorance. That aspect you can conquer through your self-effort, through yoga, jap, tap, and all that stuff. But Vidya Maya you cannot conquer. Okay, that for that you have to surrender to God. And when you surrender to God, His Yoga Maya Shakti will conquer Maya, and his Yoga Maya Shakti will enable you to see itself as well. Its master as well. And your senses will be purified and God will give you the upgrade, and then you have hit the lottery jackpot and everything is good. But all of this is enabled because you have purified your senses and that has enabled you to surrender. And because you have surrendered, you get grace. Through God's grace only it happens. And what is grace? That is a segue to our next segment. But before we get into that, any questions on what we have spoken about today? Yes, Monica ji, go ahead. And then we'll take Sandhya.
Yes. Radhe Radhe. Monica ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe, everyone. So Nitin ji, Seva, Satsang, Sadhana, dovetailing everything to Kanha and Karma Yoga. Just concentrate on these things, perfecting these things, and then grace.
Fundamentals. Get back to fundamentals. See, nothing else is needed. Seva with a commitment, satsang, and more than satsang, avoidance of kusang. And then the third thing is sadhana, your personal sadhana. If you check these boxes on a regular basis, you're bound to make progress. There's no way you will not make progress. So that's there. And the whole idea of doing these activities to deepen your faith and love for your beloved Kana, for God Himself. That is how it's meant to be. Fundamentals. We don't have to do anything drastic. Just focus on the fundamentals. Things have to fall in place. Based on the station of life that you are in, you got to be realistic and calibrate how much of each activity you want to do. Right? But these three activities have to be in your mix somehow or another. Right? If you cannot do seva because of your time commitments, maybe have that satsang and sadhana take a precedence. If you have time, whenever there is a conflict between sadhana and seva, Swamiji Maharaj Ji always said seva takes precedence. But then the mix of all three is important. And the most important thing is, just so that we don't get overpowered by Maya, is the satsang part of it. Because when you continue it, Swamiji keeps on repeating this fact, whenever you meet him, that in 40 plus years of his prachar, he has seen that people who have continued satsang, they have come afar, they have really progressed quickly. And people who do not have satsang in their routine, whether it's a weekly satsang or a daily or a monthly, whatever the case may be, then it's here and there for them, right? Up and down can continue for them. So satsang is very, very important. And get into a routine of a sadhana, even if it's a 5-minute thing you do, having it as a commitment definitely helps. And of course, satsang is very important. And what we do right now, the contemplation of knowledge, it's also satsang. And then in addition to that, we need to avoid kusang as well, which can erode or eat away into your spiritual bank balance pretty quickly. Okay, maybe.
And no expectations in return, right? I mean, that's anyways karmyo. But then these things are taken care and then done. Okay.
That's it. After God realization also, you have to do seva. Right now also we are doing seva, so it's a big deal. Let's build those sanskars, deepen those sanskars, and everything to gain from here on, right? Leave it to God. No expectations, nothing.
Okay.
Okay, maybe a couple more hands. We'll take Aarti Di. Let's take, and then we'll come to. Pallavi ji is also raised her hand.
Yeah.
Yes, Pallavi ji.
Yeah, these are the questions from chat, Nitinji, actually.
Mhm.
So I wanted to ask one question that Payalji has asked, why these teachings don't stay in our head? Why we fall prey to our own lower self?
That battle will always continue between our lower self and higher self, and that is why the contemplation is really needed. Like a cow ruminates over it, repeated contemplation is needed. You may have thought that I have heard about this concept once and I know it, but when the opportunity would present itself, that knowledge will slip. A lot of contemplation and rumination is needed until it becomes part of our DNA. So if it was so straightforward, then in every situation you'll have the right knowledge acting for you. It doesn't work that way. Even after knowing the knowledge, it will still slip, or you will fall prey to your lower nature. It can happen. But I think we cannot lose hope and continue working on ourselves. It will happen one day with God's grace.
And satsang will continue to help in this.
Satsang is very, very important. That dose is very important. We are fortunate enough to be able to do it every day.
Yes.
So it's a good routine to get into. I would say that, this daily satsang, it's a good dose to, keep recapping those concepts. So yeah, it definitely helps. It
Yes.
helps me a lot, get into a zone, at least during this 1 hour. After and before, I don't know, but yeah. Let's take maybe a couple of hands. Yes, Aarti ji, please.
Aarti ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
राधे राधे नितिन जी, पल्लवी जी। इसी से जुड़ा हुआ सवाल है। हम लोग डिस्कस कर रहे थे प्यूरिफाइंग द सेंसेस। अब आप और उन्होंने ऐड कर दिया कि सेवा सत्संग साधना, लेकिन अगर माइंड ऑलरेडी इम्प्योर है तो उसमें सेवा कर रहे हैं तो कर पाएंगे? क्योंकि हमारा देखिए इंटेंशन मतलब भटका डिस्ट्रैक्टेड माइंड रहेगा तो उससे फर्क पड़ेगा।
Got your question. Exactly. So, seva with the distorted mind. So, will you wake for that perfect situation, perfect day? When you are purified mind, and then only do seva, no, right? So you do that. That your mind will make up an excuse. I'm not yet there. You do that. Think about it. For whom you are doing that seva will also do something for you. So you're already bringing in nishkamta, because seva is about you are doing something without getting paid for it. So for whom you are doing that seva, Guru or God, they will also do something for you, right? So you got to be rest assured around that. Rest assured something will happen there. So add that to your routine, even if it is not, you are not in a perfect state of mind, some magic will start unfolding because it is nishkam act that you have undertaken. वहां पे भी challenges आएंगे because we are not perfect, but we need to keep revising this knowledge. Who are we doing it for? And keep working on ourselves. And eventually, some progress will bound to happen. It will happen over a period of time. Pace might vary, but it will happen when you add seva to the mix. Okay, maybe one more question because I want to give a good amount of time for the next topic, and then we can take all the questions in one go because I'm sure after the topic of grace, more questions will come up. So, Sandhya, maybe last phase we will take and then move on to our next segment. Yeah, Sandhya, go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, so just like you said, seva, sadhana, and satsang, we need to calibrate. Similarly, while practicing karma yoga, we also need to calibrate the duties which are essential and need to be performed.
True.
And in the case of Arjun, he had the benefit of Krishna directly telling him that this duty needs to be done. But for us, somehow we need to understand like what is just minimum essential for us to do rather than the world around us defining this.
Very
So regarding this, I need
There
guidance.
is a reason why we are where we are, right? And we need to honor that. You cannot simply say, hey, now I've found the purpose of my life, to hell with the rest of the world. No, nothing doesn't work that way. You are in a particular position in your life for a particular reason, and we need to honor that and be able to discharge our responsibilities dutifully and beautifully, and then calibrate these aspects as well, because even serving people around, whether it's your family, friends, relatives, if you are in that kind of a situation, is also serving God. You can do it with the spirit of Karam Yog there as well. It's not that you have to turn your back from the rest of the world and now uh, start doing something drastic. So that needs to be calibrated as well, of course. It's a good point. Okay, so now let's move on to the topic that we have in our cash up segment, spiritual cash up segment, and then we can get back to the questions. I think Archana ji has, Keshav ji had, and Patusha also had. We will, I'm
Yes.
sure more questions will come out, so we'll take it after that one. So over to you, Cash, if you're there. Have you given her the co-host privileges to be able to share the screen?
I'm going to.
Okay, I'm going to stop share then.
Yeah, Kashji, I've made you co-host.
Thank you, Pallavi ji. And Radhe Radhe, everyone. You can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Before I launch into today's topic, I just wanted to spend a minute thanking all of you for the constructive notes you sent via the feedback tracker, which Nitinji was kind enough to pass on to me, and also talked about it during last week's session. We've done a couple of these, and as I find my footing, I'm sure we can adjust. So one of the first things that came up was sharing the content. So I just wanted to let you guys know, if you go to the community portal, under the table of contents, you'll see this section, and every week I'll keep uploading stuff here. When I say I, it's actually a whole other team. So I did want to shout out Rahulji, Sandhya, and Chiki. They have been so responsive and such committed, dedicated team members. Can't ask for anything more. So that was on the content side of things. In terms of the volume of how much we can pack in here, definitely don't want to make it like a India suitcase that you're trying to bring here and stuff it with to the brim, right? So it was described last week as a vaccination shot, and it may be an espresso shot. So I'll take a shot and a third descriptor. Eventually, I know we'll get to a sweet spot and it'll be like a perfect 10 shot. That was the volume. And in terms of finding the pace, you guys have heard of the tortoise versus the hare story. So spirituality is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. So we'll not be like a hare and go fast and fizzle out. We'll go slow and steady like the tortoise. So our motto for this segment will be Hare Krishna and not Hare Krishna. All right, so that was what I wanted to say on the feedback. And thank you all for being receptive and, keep the constructive feedback coming. And I also wanted to say thank you to the postman. I'm ever grateful to you to let me, give me the opportunity to deliver one letter a week. So thank you for this. All right, so into today's topic. Here's a chicken and here's an egg. And we know all chickens come from eggs, but then all eggs come from chickens. So which one is the cause of which? Similarly, here's an oak tree, and we know acorns come from oak trees, but we know oak trees come from acorns. So again, which is the cause of which? And we get into this causality dilemma, which is also called circular logic. And that brings us to today's topic, which is do bhakti and receive bhakti. This is what our gurus tell us. So if you want devotion, do devotion, then you'll get devotion. But then how do I get the devotion in the first place to do the devotion? So that brings us to the topic of the grace of God. Episode 1, because we're not going to stuff it. We're only scratching the surface of grace today. And even then, the scratchings we will dissect into granular pieces to break it down even further. And before we do that, let's be cows for a minute and ruminate on what we have done in the last couple of sessions. So we started off looking at the big picture. So we said the ultimate goal of all living beings is to attain divine bliss. And then we said God is divine bliss personified. So when we say we want to attain divine bliss, we mean we want to attain God. And so that brought us to our next thing. Who is God? What is his nature? So we said, let's investigate. Let's look at that. What we found was he's paradoxical. He's full of contradictions. In what sense? We said he's the creator. So he's created everything, but he's not the doer. He doesn't come under the effect of karma like we do. Then we said he's small. He can be small enough to permeate everything, and yet he can hold the entire creation within himself. That's another paradox. We said he doesn't have sense organs, but he perceives everything. He knows everything. How's that possible? And then we said he's formless, but we know he has taken many avatars and many descensions, and for that he had to take birth. So we said it's not possible to comprehend him with human senses, mind, and intellect. And we further described why. It was like the Russian wooden nesting dolls with so many layers standing between us and God. That includes this whole plethora of senses, sense objects, mind, intellect, Maya, so many layers. Then we said he is the supreme illuminator. He sheds light on our senses, mind, and intellect. That's like saying just because the sun sheds light on the earth, can we shed light on the sun? We can't. And then we said he is the powerhouse that activates our senses, mind, and intellect. And so we don't have the energy or the power to focus that back on him. So then we said, is this an exercise in futility, or is there any way at all to know God? And thankfully, we said there is hope. You can get to know God if you attract his grace. And that's why we are here today talking about grace. So before we do that though, can we take just one moment to thank Maharaji for taking up all of this investigating work and serving up the findings to us on a platter? Because imagine how many lifetimes we might have already tried to do that or would have tried to do that if we had not come across this knowledge. So thank you. All right, so grace, he says, there's a unanimous scriptural verdict. What he says is, although the Supreme Personality God cannot be grasped by the greatest senses, mind, intellect, yet that unknowable and invisible God can be fully known and seen by that fortunate soul who is graced by him with his divine power. And then he quotes from several different sources. First, the Bhagavad Gita. He says, chapter 18, verse 62, the second line, Tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsasi shashvatam. What that says is, it is only by the grace of God that you can attain supreme peace and his eternally blissful divine abode. Then he quotes from the Bhagavatam, where Vyas says, no one can know God even if he endeavors to know him for innumerable lifetimes. But when God imparts his grace to a soul, he can know him and attain divine bliss for eternity. He also quotes from the Ramayana, which says it is only by his grace that one can be freed from the bondage of not just Maya, but delusion and mental afflictions. And then he quotes again from the Ramayana and says, it is only by the grace of God that one attains the association of a true saint. So what is going on here? I think Maharaji is just trying to drill into us that it's not possible for us to do this on our own. We absolutely need the grace, and he's attacking this from all flanks. All these different scriptures he's telling us all are saying the same thing. So we better believe it. And then if you thought we are done beating this dead horse, it's still twitching. So one last time. All scriptures from the Vedas to the Bhagavad Gita to the Bhagavatam to the Ramayana have unanimously declared that we can neither be eternally free from sorrow and suffering, nor can we attain divine bliss without God's grace. So at this juncture, Maharaji asks a series of questions, which kind of amount to let go and let God. So first he asks, if everything depends on the grace of God, then are we freed from all responsibilities? Maybe we don't have to do anything. When he graces us, won't everything automatically fall into place? And if that is the case, what is the need to practice devotion or any other spiritual practice for that matter? In other words, why do we have to do bhakti to receive bhakti? So let's leave this chapter here and dip into the real world for a second. And here I'm going to draw from a personal example, personal experience. So when I was younger, much younger, I used to play tennis at a local competitive level, right? And during the course of that time, I busted my knee. I was in pain, it wasn't going away. So my parents took me to a sports medicine doctor where he gave me a diagnosis and said I need surgery, right? So that's all done, graft, implants, which I still have. And I thought, yes, that's all done. I'm on my merry way and I can get back to my playing ways. Boy, was I wrong. So the doctors told me, wait a minute, you're going to be on crutches for the next few weeks. And then you're going to have to go to physiotherapy for 7 to 9 months, get full flexion in your knee. You're going to have to do your own exercises to do that. And then you can be on your merry way. So what is this trying to tell us? If we look at this as two different sets of activities, right? This first part here, from totally broken to fixed a little bit, I was able to do without much self-effort, right? Because an expert stepped in and did that part for me. That got me up to a certain point, but it didn't get me to where I wanted to be. The way I had to get there was through self-effort. And of course, it was based on the guidance of the expert. So I didn't have to use my intellect. I just had to do what they asked me to do. And that's how I got there. So point of this whole thing is there is no substitute for self-effort if you want to make some meaningful progress. And then let's try to relate this back to grace. Do you have the eyes to recognize? Now, if we look at the word recognize, it has two meanings. It has more, but let's look at two meanings. And I think each one of us helps to draw a parallel to one aspect of grace that we can then solidify to understand what is grace really. So recognize firstly means to identify or to acknowledge the existence of, right? So like if you walk into a store, you see a person, if you know them, your brain makes a connection and you say, I recognize my friend or my coworker, or I recognize my son, and what is he doing here? He should be in school. The other meaning of grace or of recognize is to show appreciation. So you get recognized at work for for doing a good job. So when we identify or acknowledge, that actually means we just list out the things we already have, right? And if I relate back to the example we just talked about, what I already had was a diagnosis. What I already had was the surgery. So I was fixed up. And I had got that without my self-effort, and I have got that with the help of an expert, right? Now, how could I show appreciation towards that? By utilizing the fact that I had these things. And how could I utilize them? By going to physiotherapy, by making sure I was doing my exercises. And that I had to put in self-effort, but Someone had served it up to me, just said, do this, and I just had to follow those instructions. So then let's look at grace more granularly and try to relate that example to spirituality and grace. So if we talk about recognizing or identifying the graces that we already have, I have listed some. I'll bet the list can go longer, but here's just some. First of all, we have a human life in which it is even possible to try to make an attempt to get to know God. Then we have been endowed with faith in God. That doesn't come easy. We have a desire to come to satsang, and that is why we make it a priority to congregate here every night. We have a God-realized guru. What can be a bigger grace than that? He has showed us the right path to devotion. And then he's told us in detail how to practice those teachings. So this all we have gained without our self-effort. We already have it. And we have it with the help of our guru. Now, what can we do to show appreciation for this? We can utilize it. And the more gratitude we have, the more grace we'll have. How can we utilize it? Again, these are just a few bullet points, and I'm sure more can be added. We just talked about some of this stuff. So we can practice our daily sadhana, we can do our roop dhyan, we can engage in seva, we listen to divine knowledge, we can implement that in our daily lives, and we can try to cultivate divine qualities and keep making progress on that. Reduce the fault finding, increase your patience, tolerance, all of that. But that stuff is going to need our self-effort. And we do have our guru's guidance to make that easier. So what does that self-effort lead to? Let's go back to the questions that Maharaji had asked us, right? He had asked, if everything depends on the grace of God, are we freed from responsibility? If he graces us, will everything just fall into place? And why do we need to practice devotion? I think we kind of got to that. So why do we need bhakti to receive bhakti? Because when we do bhakti and we receive more bhakti, we get even more grace, gratitude, and growth in our bhakti. This is meaningful progress, and this is leveling up in our spiritual progress, right? So that brings us to, we're not going to be happy just knowing this. We're going to try to implement and apply this stuff. This quote I got from one of the articles that talked about grace. So Maharaji says, I do not expect too much from you all. I know you cannot enter Golok in one day, but if you do not do as much as you can do, that is what makes me feel sad. So to progress, we must practice. Practice for this week. I invite you to join me in making a PPT. And no, I do not mean a PowerPoint deck. Let's make a personal pep talk. So what is that? These are motivational notes to help us prioritize our practice, whatever that might be, or when we're just feeling tired or lazy. And I actually do this. I do have notes. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but it's something. When I'm feeling this way or I'm confused whether I should do that or something else, I just go back and look at my notes. It gives me a kick up the backside to do the right thing. So here are some bullet points. It could be inspirational quotes that you write down as a reminder to yourself. You can write down your own, happy experiences when you've done something and it's worked out and you feel the grace of God coming in. Sometimes you got to cut through the fluff and just push yourself to do it. Because you know what's good for you. So just do it. And it would be great if all of you fellow satsangis would share your sadhana pep talk strategies in the feedback track or here, so that we can all, gain from each other's ideas. And I will leave you with one thought. This is one of my pep talk things. Don't procrastinate. Life has no grace period. Put in effort and attract grace, period. And that concludes our segment for today. Thank you for your patience and attention. Radhe Radhe.
Awesome, Cash. It is to the point and grace all over it. I must say that, as you can see, a lot of accolades coming in. The PPT aspect, the personal pep talk, loved that part, and all the acronyms that you have a knack to play around with. Very to the point, very crisp, and I think you distilled the message for the benefit of all. And those of you, who have listened to Maharaj, you can imagine how much information he packs, even within one page. And to be able to assimilate it and complement it with personal anecdotes and experiences and be able to relate it does take a commendable effort, insight, thought, as you can see. So commendable job, Cash, like always. I'm so glad we added this segment, and I would open it up to people for them to ask questions or to talk about how they felt. And let's start with Prakashji. Prakashji, you are very enthused. So how was your experience? I mean, these are very refreshing presentations, right? Not something that we are used to. Go ahead, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Radhe Radhe, Prakashji, please go ahead.
Prakashji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yeah. Once again, it's very heavy presentation and topic, but very nicely put with great energy, with bringing in your own personal experience, Kashji. So three things which I felt it stood stand out: content, creativity, and conviction. 3 C's. Okay, so all three are basically top notch. I mean, the PPT, what you said, we really need to learn the real PPTs from you, how to make PowerPoint presentations also in addition to these PPTs. Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to say is that throughout the week, while we are getting Shravan and Manan from Nitinji's classes, this catch up is like an enthusiasm for us. Okay, so that completes Shravan, Manan, and enthusiasm. So I think the kind of things that you are bringing is bringing a lot of conviction and could relate to the practical topics. So overall, it makes it like very complete thing in the entire week. Thank you so much for us for giving us, and thanks once again, thanks for sharing those PPTs in the this portal. So I'm definitely going to download that, and then we'll use it for contemplation. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prakashji. Pallaviji, owners, now it's entirely your prerogative. Please go ahead and you can
Yes.
call out. By
Yeah,
the way,
I
I would
see.
encourage everyone to provide your feedback on this segment, as well as overall, like you always do. And do let us know if you have any questions. We can always bring it to the sessions and talk more about it as well. Yes, Pallaviji, all yours.
Yeah. Thank you, Nitinji. First of all, thank you for including this segment on Wednesdays, especially. I feel very grateful to be able to part of attending the session. And Kashji, outstanding as always. And now we have gotten used to your outstanding presentation. So thank you so much. I'll go ahead and take up all the hands. Thank you for waiting. Archana ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, great presentation. Thank you for doing that, Kashji. But my question was from previous Nitinji regarding the Seva, Satsang, and Sadhana. So Seva and Sadhana is something that I can do on my, I really don't need people with it. For Satsang, I have a question, and maybe I think you already answered it. Is listening to Swamiji's discourses on YouTube on a regular basis on some particular time, would that count as satsang?
It is. In fact, Swamiji has defined that hierarchy very clearly. I think he's spoken about the best thing is to have a live association. If it is possible for you to attend retreats or one of his LTP life transformation programs or get to meet him in person, there's no substitute for that. Okay, if that is not possible, then I think second thing he put was these online sessions. He said these 100+ sessions that are going on, if you do that and build it as part of your routine, it's very powerful. That is also not possible. Go for videos and search it out, right? Swamiji's videos anyway, they can go hand in hand with these sessions as well.
Yeah.
Also kind of satsang that you are doing as well. If not that, then read a book. If not that, just go out and take a walk, but don't indulge in gossiping and other things. So he's that entire hierarchy. So yes, in a way it is a satsang, but if you can have a physical association or maybe a satsang center local chapter, you can join, nothing like it. That routine is even
Right.
because it's in person, those vibes are completely different. Yeah.
Right. And that we try to do as much as I can. But then, as again we said, right, we have other duties of
Right.
being a wife, and I would love to attend these sessions every day. And my husband is traveling this week, so I'm able to attend every day. But 7 o'clock is the time when he comes, right? And then that's when the session starts. So sometimes it becomes difficult for me to join. So
You make an intent, and then things you typically start aligning around it. But yeah, as best as you can. I do understand. We can
okay.
always have some constraints. But yeah,
Thank
key thing is anything that takes your mind to God becomes
Mhm.
satsang. Anything that takes it away from it is not satsang.
Thank you.
Always. Thank you. Yes, Pallavi.
Keshavji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Keshavji.
I'll not waste time. Presentation is always good, and the efforts put in awesome. The coming to the, first I would like to talk something about Monday, our satsang. Somebody said about Bhondu. One person said Bhondu, and another person accepted that she is also Bhondu. Then it was done on Monday. So on Tuesday in my morning meditation, I contemplated on this Bhondu word, because there is no single word which can explain that. So what I got in meditation was, how I contemplated Bhondu, Bhondur, Dur, जो भोनु बन से दूर है. Now coming to Bhan, Bhagwan, जो भगवान से दूर है वो भोंदू है. So guess what? We all were Bhagwan se dur in our previous life. That's why we are here in this world again. So we were Bhondu, each and every single person in this whole world. It was Bhondu in previous life. So now coming to how to become not Bhondur but closest to Bhagwan. This shloka which we are talking about, Sannyasastu Mahabaho. What is sannyas? कर्मों, संन्यास अर्थात मन, इंद्रियों और शरीर द्वारा होने वाले संपूर्ण कर्मों में कर्तापन का त्याग इज संन्यास. एंड वी कैन नॉट बी त्यागी विदाउट योग युक्त मतलब कर्म योगी. व्हाट कर्म? Meditation, as you very rightly said couple of times in this today and yesterday and day for yesterday as well. So Karam Yogi, meditation, dhyan, and meditating only and only on Purushottam Krishna. Only then he will grace us and we will achieve the goal, and we will not be Bhondu in this life. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Keshavji. We will not be Bhondu. Okay, that's a sankalp we all can take. So thank you very much for that. Yes, quite a few hands. Pallavi
Yes.
ji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe, Sandhya ji, please go ahead.
Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe. So, Cash D, just like I have, I think, been taking innumerable graces of God for granted. Similarly, I think I've started taking your presentations also for granted. Like, I know there is a basic standard that you have set, and it is only going to get better and better. And one thing that is always constant is, every slide offers something intellectually stimulating. Like it makes you think something from a different angle. So thank you for that. And one thing that you had mentioned in the last class was the correlation analogy between time management and grace utilization. I just love that. Like I always try to remind me of that analogy, that it's the same time which is available to all of us. It's the same grace which is available to all of us. It's just upon us how well we utilize to get more of it. So yeah, so thanks once again. Yes, and thanks Nitinji for introducing this segment for all of us. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Sandhya ji. Monica ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, concise, creative, and conviction. I think that's what Prakash said, right? And yes, I agree. Each slide packs a lot of punch. And like Raviji is pointing out, clear, concise, with actionable takeaways and subtle humor loaded in as well. Okay, I hope you're catching that as well, right? So outstanding. Yes, Monica ji, go ahead, please.
Radhe Radhe again. So Nitinji, we were talking about, I mean, Behan, thank you. And I can go on and on and on with your presentation. And when it comes to you, I'm really, I can say that I'm on the luckiest here when it comes to, you know, soul sisters like you, Komal, and everybody in this channel, right? I wanted to mention the statement that she made in the last slide about procrastination, that life doesn't have grace period. Life doesn't have grace period, something like that, right? And Nitinji also knows that one-liners hit me hard. I noted down. I pasted in, you know, in front of me on the wall. So this is one more thing which is which will be there in my collection. So like literally making us understand what Bhagavad Gita means, and it's, you know, basically what it means. You have been chosen for you know, this seva by, I feel, by Maharaji himself, right? uh, I don't know. I mean, with this busy schedule, I'm not sure if any of us would read book and, you know, understand. But you're doing that for us, so many thanks. Thank you very much.
Yes, the best part of it is she's not simply regurgitating, right? I think that's how you say it. The content, a lot of thought has gone behind it, right? How do you map it to scenarios? So a lot of assimilation, as you can see, which comes out, which is the X factor in this, right? If you simply regurgitate the content, that is like, okay, we can hear it and read it ourselves, but a lot of thought goes behind that, which truly makes an impact on the audience as well. You can relate to it much better. So good going. And like you said, somebody attempting, Maharajji's philosophy, that to something which is a crown jewel, which is his Prem Ras Siddhant, and being able to present it in itself is Maharajji's grace all written all over it. It cannot happen without his permission. He allows you to understand it, read it, and gives you permission, then only it is possible. So it's our privilege actually to be, having these segment, as part of this segment, and keep up the great work. I think it has grace written all over it for sure. Wonderful. Yes, Pallaviji, next.
Pratyusha ji, Radhe Radhe.
Pratyusha, how are you? Radhe
Uh,
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Palviji, Radhe Radhe, Nitin sir, and everyone. Actually, I love Cash. Cash, your presentation is awesome. You know, makes my head reel. So today's takeaway for me is this is all around there is a limit to our self effort, and if we want God's grace, do bhakti. So bhakti, sadhana, seva, satsang, everything that you can you do it, you know, and grace will bring more grace. So I have a question for you. That is, you said about Maya and Yog Maya. So Yog Maya is Krishna, right?
Energy of Krishna, right?
Right. So that is one thing, and second thing is, what is the difference between Yog Maya and Vidya Maya?
Yoga Maya and Vidya. See, Vidya Maya is a component of Maya only. It is
Okay.
Yoga Maya, and it is energized by Yoga Maya only. Think of it. Maya is God's energy, right? So if it is God's energy, both Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya, which are component of that Maya, are energized by God. But in grand scheme of thing, it is called God's inferior energy. And then it is called God's Bahirangi energy, external energy. And his Atrangi energies or Parashakti is called Yoga Maya. So although Maya is energized by Yoga Maya, but it is inferior energy of God. So Maya and Yoga Maya are separate. And yet it's like even the Maya aspect is energized by God only, Yoga Maya Shakti only, but both are different. So Vidya Maya is nothing but an aspect of Maya, which is used by God to make this creation, this whole creation. We spoke about Pancha Mahabhut, Mahan Ahankar, and all that tattva that comes through Vidya Maya. The orchestration of this creation happens through Vidya Maya. So there is a technical difference between both, because one is Maya and other is Yoga Maya. Maya is inferior Shakti of God, and Yoga Maya is his Atarangi Parashakti, or the Swarupa Shakti of God himself. Both are not same.
Thank you. Thank you, Nitin ji. Pooja ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Pallavi ji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Cash, awesome presentation. Just loved it. And the line which says life does not offer you grace period, it really hit hard. Honestly, my Dee tells me every day about this. Naam jap kar, naam jap kar. But today, this statement really made an impact, and I will keep that in mind always. Whenever I do naam jap. And second was about in context of what you spoke about, Nitin ji, that you should not waste our time in gossiping and all. But there are certain, I don't say that I gossip and all, but then there are certain things that kind of, occupy space in your mind. Say, for example, especially on personal front, when something happens and you don't like it, so you'd like to vent it, right? I hate spending time in that as well, but then it feels that if I don't vent, I will not be able to empty it here. So even if I do naam jap, or even if I try and occupy my mind with God or naam jap and whatever, it takes time over the period. It will go off your head over the period. So when do I stop thinking about all these things, or how do I actually make sure that those things do not affect me?
See, venting, again, we can talk, it's a bit contextual. Venting gives you a bit of a dopamine kick also.
Mm-hmm.
But so that gives you a bit of a relief in a way,
Yeah.
venting. But that's more of a dopamine kick that we are going for. If we go for serotonin higher, right, venting, there's a reason for that. But when you reason it out and simply discard and reject it, then the bliss that you would get, it would be even more higher. Right? So maybe something that occupies your mind space, and in fact, it is said that something that bothers you is the lesson for you. So what is bothering you, get to the root of it. And if you can actually eradicate that root itself, right? If it's some personal people who are irritating you, get playing on your nerves, just don't lend them mind space. I don't know how that will, but if you can eradicate the root cause for it, it will give you a serotonin kick, which will be much higher than the kick that you get after venting. So think about it. Why would they occupy? Why do you let somebody rent your mind? Is it that personality? Is it, so you are being tested? Is it your attachment? Is it your, some part of your personality where they're able to press your nerve, right? So identify that and work on the root cause as opposed to thinking of fixing it by symptomatic relief, which is venting. What is the guarantee? They will not give you another reason to vent. How long you will continue to vent, and how long you will lose out time by giving it your mind space. So think big term on that, long term on that. Easier said than done, but scripturally speaking, that is how we need to go. As opposed to venting our way to glory around it. Right? Because it's not sustainable. How long you'll vent, and for how many people you'll vent, and that becomes after a while it will become a mindset and your sanskar that you'll have to deal with anyways. Right? So take away that reason for venting itself. Why bother? Is it really so important, or can you navigate around it, or can you put a lid to it? So look at some solutions around it.
Sure, Nitin.
Yeah, we can talk more about it if it's a little contextual. What are the different options in the situation that you're talking about, and we can talk through that. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person as well. So
most definitely, I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Nitin ji. Thank you, Pooja ji. Maybe writing journals have also helped people.
yeah,
sure, Pallavi ji.
Yeah, sometimes when you write out what you want to enter and you read it yourself, now it will make you laugh. So it's a good idea. What you feel like, write it out, and after a couple of hours, if you read it, you'll be like, really, this is what I wanted to, write it out. And if you want to fight with somebody, try fighting it out on a sheet of paper. Okay, you write and I'll write. You write, I write. Okay, after a while, how long it goes.
Actually, blabbering in front of my sister definitely helps, but then she's like, that is it. You have to put a full stop to it. How much are you going to really keep talking about people who are affecting you? But honestly, Nitinji, it's not, the professional thing. It's more of personal, where I have people that I'm connected with and I really cannot ignore them in life.
True.
So yeah, but then I'll definitely focus on the root cause and I'll work.
The root cause part of it, because when you learn the lesson around it, especially if it is getting repeated in your life, then it could be a sure short sign that there's a lesson, inherent in it. And the moment we learn the lesson, the situation itself will start easing.
Right.
At times. But yeah, we can definitely talk more on that. Yeah.
Most definitely. Thank you, Nitinji.
No worries.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe, Aparna ji, please go ahead.
Went to Kanaji, Shilpa ji is saying, telling you, went to Kanaji, he'll listen to you. Yes, Aparna ji, go ahead, please.
Radhe Radhe, Nitinji. Thank you for this segment. Actually, I wasn't aware that when did this start? I'm not sure, but this is only the second time, I think.
Yes, it's a second one.
Yeah,
And
there
it will be
are
every
three
Wednesday.
of them.
Okay. Yeah, that was a great presentation, Kashji. Actually, what a great example from your personal life about tennis. I really like that because it actually highlights the personal efforts. I mean, your whole presentation was good, but this that one particularly is very simple to understand. Which is like our own practice is the prime most thing in attracting the grace from God. I also love the quotes about procrastination because I am a big procrastinator. So I'm going to put it
We
as my.
all are. We all are procrastinators.
So thank you so much. I really liked it.
Yep,
Yeah,
and
thank you,
please do fill
Aparna.
out the feedback tracker as well. Okay.
Yes.
Always good to get it in writing as well. Yes. Who's next?
Minuji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Minuji. Minuji
Radhe
will be very happy today. Yes, Minuji, go ahead, please.
Radhe Radhe.
आपने मीनू जी कभी सोचा था आप अपने लाइफ टाइम में प्रेम रस सिद्धांत का रूपांतरण इस सर्व क्या बोलते हैं, हिंदी का शब्द ही नहीं आ रहे हैं
जो
माध्यम?
मैं सबसे पहले कैंप की प्रेजेंटेशन और महाराज जी और स्वामी जी का ग्रेटिट्यूड शो करूंगी और ये बताना चाहती हूँ कि उनकी कृपा से कि ये कैसे इसने आपके जूम सेशन में ये प्रेजेंटेशन दी है इन सच अ short form or presentation is outstanding, and the graces we get we forget, so I want to show also my grace that I was able to have live association of Jagadguru Kripalu Mahaprabhu, and then he sent Swami Mukundana ji here as a JK Yog founder. Or hame while sitting here we are having these Zoom sessions, you people are working so hard and giving your time. It's like doing devotion at home, and it's like doing satsang, and the way you are explaining everything, and we are forgetful by nature, and this is the way to show my gratitude, and their grace is always pouring. It depends how receptive we are, and very, very thankful. Jai Shri Radhe.
Thank you, Minuji. Yes, it's definitely we are very, very, very fortunate and privileged. I agree. Swamiji Maharaj Ji has brought satsangs to our home and given us this beautiful platform. We can't thank them enough for that, surely.
Because during my time I used to wait one year to just to have a one satsang in the house. Long time when there was not too much IT and media thing going on. Here we can do like satsang every day throughout the day. There's so much on the media, social media.
True. And it's a lot of grace in action for sure for us to come together
Yes,
like
yeah.
this. I could not possibly have conceived it in our regular life until COVID came along, that this is even possible with your, daily work and travel and stuff like that. But it is happening, and I'm so glad it came as a daily session and not something you have to do once a week or twice a week thing. It's a daily routine is a great routine to get into.
Yes, and we really appreciate and we are thankful for giving your time every day. Thanks.
No, it's my pleasure, in fact. So,
Yes,
yes.
absolutely. We can't thank enough for that. Or Radhe Radhe, Tanmay ji, please go
Tanmay
ahead.
ji, TGIF,
Radhe Radhe.
Tanmay Goel ji is fantastic. Yes, Tanmay ji, please.
I just like one personal experience, like in terms of because the topic is the grace thing. So when I was talking about you, you were that the universe does talk to us. So it's a kind of a grace from God. So I have a weird thing, like a weird idea, like when we look at the Sankhya Yoga, Prakriti Purusha, the first thing comes is the Mahat Buddhi. So I have just this one question: is this that cosmic intelligence that uh, and this universal sign, do they have some sort of a connection? Because I think it's a grace. Because how can we like it? There's something just pops out of in our intellect and we connect it, and we now like then we confirm like, yeah, it's a universal sign. How can it be possible? It has to be like, how can God? Nobody can know. God has to know. Like no, no, like nobody can know that. Only God has to know that, and He sends the signal. So is it that in some form of Mahat Buddhi, and like it's a weird idea, Nitin ji.
I know it's a pretty complicated and loaded question. So Tanmay I think we need to have a lot of offline discussion on that. But it is not Mahat Tattva. I think
Okay.
anything that we are able to discern or understand in our intellect, right? It is basically with God's grace only, especially if it is a spiritual principle. Because in Bhagavad Gita himself, God
Okay.
has said that I sit in your buddhi and make it. I am memory and I am forgetfulness as well. And only when
Yes,
he
yes.
allows you,
Nitin, I have a very deep. I just, if I could get some personal time of your,
sure,
I
sure,
would
I'll
just
call you.
want to share some very deep thoughts on this topic.
Sure, Tanmay I'll
I'm sure
give you a call and let's have an
this
offline
will be a
conversation.
very good conversation.
Sure,
Thank
sure.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Tanmay please respond in the feedback tracker. Uh, if
I'll
you-
give, I
Okay.
have his
Sure.
number, so I'm going to speak to
Okay.
him. Yeah. Thank you,
Okay.
Tanmay.
Thank you
Okay,
so
so I think we can do maybe a couple of rounds of chanting today. Maybe 3 hands we can take and then wrap it up because it's good to finish off the session with a quick chant. Pallaviji, are you sure you want to you are free to? I know it's late for you, so if you want to wrap up, you can wrap up early.
Yeah, I have a couple of minutes, Nitinji.
Okay, but feel free to drop off. Okay, don't feel I know you're at East Coast time, so we don't want to hold you back. Maybe a couple of hands we'll take and wrap it up quickly. Go ahead, Sandhya.
सुमिरन करिले मना छिन छिन राधा रमना सुमिरन करिले मना छिन छिन राधा रमना स्वामी सखा सुत सजना चार भाव हरि भजना हरि तो कृपालु अपना यह हरि श्रुति वचना सुमिरन 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 करे मना छिन छिन राधा रमना. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you, Sandhya.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sandhya ji. Swati ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. सुमिरन कर ले मना छिन छिन राधा रमना स्वामी सखा सुत सजना चारी भाव हरि भजना हरि तो कृपालु अपना यह हरि श्रुति वचना सुमिरन कर ले मना छिन छिन राधा रमना. Thank you, and thank you, Kelsey, for the beautiful presentation. Loved it. Radhe Radhe.
Thank you, Swati ji. All right, I see 2 more hands real quick.
Manisha ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
राधे राधे
Radhe.
सुमिरन कर ली मना छिन छिन राधा रमना स्वामी सखा सुत सजना चारि भाव हरि भजना हरि तो कृपालु अपना यह हरि श्रुति वचना सुमिरन कर ले मना छिन छिन राधा रमन. Radhe
Very nice,
Radhe.
Manisha ji. Radhe Radhe. Priya ji, please go ahead.
Priya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Okay.
Priya ji, what
Okay.
happened? I'm sorry. I think I unmuted, right?
Yeah, I don't see Riyaji at all.
Yeah, Riyaji, I can't unmute you. Let me see.
Yeah, thank you. I was unable to unmute. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
सुमिरन कर ले मना चिन चिन राधा रमना स्वामी सखा सुत सजना चारी भाव हरि भजना हरि तो कृपालु अपना यह हरि श्रुति वचना सुमिरन 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 कर ले मना चिन चिन राधा रमना
Very
Thank
nice.
you, Radhe. Radhe.
Thank you, Riyaji. So this beautiful verse, Maharaj is saying that love and serve Lord Krishna as your master, friend, child, and beloved, all the bhavs. God has given us the freedom. I'm willing to become your master, your friend, child, and beloved, however you want to envision me. So basically, he's saying that I'm ready to fill in all the gaps for you. Whichever relationship that you're seeking and gives you the extreme pleasure in this world, just replace that with me, essentially what he's saying. And then the merciful Krishna alone is yours. We have spoken about this concept so many times, right? God is our true Sambandhi, and our Vedas are reiterating that as well. So that's pretty much it. So with that, we come to the end of today's session. And Radhe Radhe, have a wonderful day and a good rest of your evening. I know we are late, so I will skip reciting it today. And thank you again for your outstanding presentation. क्या हुआ? Monica ji saying something. What happened? क्या हुआ Monica ji?
राधे राधे नितिन जी, आई सेइंग प्लीज सिंग। आप 1 मिनट में क्या हो जाएगा?
ठीक है, 1 मिनट का देते हैं, लगाइए वापस, bring it on. I can go.
Sorry.
A minute I'll take. सुमिरन कर ले मना छिन छिन राधा रमना स्वामी सखा सुत सजना चारि भाव हरि भजना हरि तो कृपालु अपना यह हरि श्रुति वचना हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सुमिरन 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 कर ले मना छिन छिन राधा रमना. All right, so thank you again, everyone. Tomorrow is our quiz day, so hope you all are ready for tomorrow. Please come in full force. It's always fun to play that game. We'll see if we can improvise a little bit on the quiz as well, so that we can elicit more participation. Maybe slide-based stuff, not for tomorrow though, but we'll experiment around it in one of the sessions, possibly next week. But I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Thank you again. Radhe Radhe. Good night. Good day from my side.
Thank you, Nitinji. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful participation. Stay blessed.
Absolutely. Radhe Radhe.